The first weekend of November 2024 was memorable for the Bloodline, no doubt about it. First, we had a very striking scene at Smackdown and a match at Crown Jewel that caught a lot of people off guard. Once again, we find ourselves asking 10,000 questions about the WWE storyline that has been ongoing for several years. What is my analysis of all these events in the Samoan family? What do I think of the strong creative choices that have been made? What can we imagine for the future? Roman Reigns in all of this? Solo Sikoa? Sami Zayn? Have we been given 5-star cinema again in caviar mode? Or are we being served up expired soup where everything has already been told? Grab a tribal coffee and let's discuss all of this together with passion.
You are on the Wrestling Paradise.
A pivotal weekend in the Bloodline. Let's go. Goodness. There have been quite a few things happening around the Bloodline. It's really crazy to have a story that, for so long, continues to raise questions and spark our interest, even though, in fact, that's one of the big questions of this video. Is it really that interesting? Is it really that new and exciting and captivating? Or not so much? Or is it, on the contrary, very predictable and very heavy? Real question, real question. And believe me, the answer may not be what you expect. Anyway, we'll get to that. Don't be afraid. First of all, I remind you that very interesting things had happened around Sami Zayn, but here, in the Smackdown on November 1st, 2024, we were refocusing everything around the magic triangle, I want to say, the OG Bloodline. This is now how WWE refers to them, and rightly so, since it is a bit of the original Bloodline, the original gangster Bloodline, I want to say. I am of course talking about Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso. As we know, the plan is to have a 3-on-4 match at Crown Jewel, with Roman Reigns and his two cousins on one side, facing the Bloodline. I was going to say, terrifying, but not that much about
Solo Sikoa.
And that's the problem. We'll get to that. So, the idea here was mainly, will Roman Reigns and his cousins be able to put the past aside and purely focus on the big battle coming to their doorstep to truly challenge and put an end to the Bloodline that is causing chaos? Or will they be unable to set aside that past? That's really the crux of the issue from a narrative perspective. And frankly, I have to say, yes, it's interesting, especially when we still have in mind all this rich history between none other than Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. It's true that we are happy. We can be happy, at least I think, to say that WWE highlights the fact that there is a significant history between these three and that it cannot be easily brushed aside. And that an alliance like this, all of a sudden, when there have been so many things between them, can't be that easy either. And it's really a good idea. Anyway, let me tell you what happened. So, in this segment, Jimmy Uso was telling Roman Reigns that he wanted the former, well, rather the OTC, to bury the hatchet with Jey. They have to get along well if they want to put an end to, or at least initially defeat, the Bloodline. Because now, when we say Bloodline, it's funny because for years, the Bloodline was Roman Reigns as the head of the tribe, and then everyone else. Whereas now, the Bloodline is actually
Solo Sikoa
and his henchmen. So we will call them that, as WWE does. In any case, the fact is that they need to get along well. Otherwise, they won't beat the Bloodline. We had Roman Reigns making the microphone gesture, as he has always done with Paul Heyman, who is still notably absent. In any case, by the time we arrive at this pivotal weekend in November 2024, he does it to Jimmy Uso this time as if he was waiting for him to hand him the microphone, except at that moment, Jey Uso comes from the audience. And it's true that personally, let me know in the comments if it's the same for you. Honestly, I'm going to tell you, when I saw Jey Uso's entrance with Roman and Jimmy waiting for him in the ring, I thought to myself, this scene is quite a culmination if you take a step back, because seeing Jey, acclaimed, hyper popular with the crowd, returned like a true star, with an audience that really loves his music, I still said, it's quite a symbolic victory. To experience this in front of Roman, considering that just 4 years earlier, we had trouble distinguishing Jey from Jimmy, let's not forget that, and he was purely confined to a role as Roman Reigns' slave. And indeed, that is going to be one of the major themes of his speech, or monologue, I want to say, in front of Roman Reigns. Because yes, in reality, while I expected much more of a dialogue where everyone would speak, in reality, Jey Uso came to talk face to face with Roman, especially in this segment, to really express everything he had to feel. Well, everything he was feeling rather, without really allowing Roman Reigns to speak. Well, after all, it's also a creative choice by WWE not to really let Roman speak. What did Jey actually say? He said that he agreed to participate in this match, in this war against
Solo Sikoa
and his minions, because Solo and his henchmen cost him his Intercontinental title, and also that he is tired of all the chaos in the family because of them, and that this is what family does, even when things are not going well, even when there are problems between certain people, for the sake of the family, for the sake of future generations, but also in honor of the past ones, we put this aside and try to resolve everything. So I want to say, it's a great mentality from Jey Uso. It makes sense, it's coherent. But Jey made it clear that not everything is resolved between them. Jey hasn't forgotten what Roman did to him, hasn't forgotten all. Let's say, his grip and the damage from a physical, emotional, and mental perspective. And he certainly hasn't forgiven the former, rather the original tribal chief. Certainly not, but well, he puts that aside, at least for the duration of this match, and it's certain for Jey. And I think that's really good, really good. It was important to say that, and not to fall back into the same dynamic as before. Jey will refuse at all costs to be a henchman again, to be a slave again. He said a very striking phrase, brace yourselves, I am your equal now. Do you realize Jey Uso, who was really, clearly, the one who was mostly there to intervene in Roman Reigns' matches for years, is now telling him, that's it, I've made my journey, I've come a long way, I'm no longer the one who stood by your side, in your shadow, to help you when you needed it all those years. No, now I am your equal, and you will respect me. And he basically said, yes, if you disrespect me, I'm out. And certainly, there is no room for any disrespect with Jey Uso, that's for sure. So, all of this is very interesting, with Jey Uso asserting himself and rebelling against the past. I would say, I still want to open another parenthesis by saying that I find it so unfortunate that
Solo Sikoa
this bloodline doesn't really instill fear in this situation around Jey and Roman, because if this bloodline was truly intimidating and had won all its matches in a hyper-dominant manner for months, if all the brawls where it was purely a fight between different actors had been won in a truly indisputable and powerful way, then I would say, well, it's clear that it's concerning to see perhaps a Roman Reigns and a Jey Uso not united to go, let's say, climbing this nearly impossible mountain if they are not united. Basically, the idea is that it would be much more interesting, it would be much more exciting, all of that. The idea of unifying, managing to unify the OG bloodline, if
Solo Sikoa
bloodline were truly terrifying and really instilled fear, but unfortunately, that is not the case. But the big question is, did they manage to reverse this trend a bit and correct these problems at Crown Jewel? Around this bloodline of Solo Sikoa, who, unfortunately, had clearly been serving as a supporting character for months in reality, and was just a B team. That's a real question surrounding Crown Jewel, but briefly, what was really good is that we imagined upcoming tensions and a whole past that would still be, let's say, being updated in the present around Jey and Roman. And it's true that watching this segment, one could think, for goodness sake, it feels like at Crown Jewel, this is probably what could cost them the defeat if they fail to get along and put the past aside. Has this feeling been confirmed? Stay tuned, we will know soon. In any case, I still feel a bit unsatisfied and somewhat disappointed with the ending of this segment on Smackdown. After a good promo from Jey Uso, where he talked about all this past and expressed everything he had on his heart, Roman settled for a simple yeet, which is the catchphrase I want to say. For months, he had been waiting for Jey, and then he simply raised, well, not him first Jimmy, then Jey, then Roman, raising their fingers one by one to the sky, savoring that moment, taking the time to build it, and nothing else. Nothing else. I still found it a bit unfortunate that Roman Reigns doesn't say more. Well, after all, it's long-term storytelling. It's something that can still be told over several months without any problem. So, maybe he will express what he feels about the past and about Jay in several episodes. It's not impossible. The fact is that I was left a bit unsatisfied with the ease of this scene's ending. I think it deserved a bit better though. But the moment, without a doubt, was well constructed. And it made the audience react, who, by the way, is really deeply invested in this story. That's undeniable. It's still crazy how much he provokes reactions among Jay, Roman, and even Jimmy. And all of that opened the way to Crown Jewel. And there, I must say, I am still a bit, let's say, surprised when I see that it is not the main event of Crown Jewel, but the opener. So on one hand, it's true that in the manner of Bad Blood a few weeks ago, at least by the time we get to Crown Jewel, it's good to start strong and finish strong. So starting with either the title match, a very strong rivalry, or the bloodline is a good idea. However, I was still surprised. I thought to myself, the bloodline, it's true that I'm so used to it being the most important thing in the show. So, seeing them in the opener was a bit strange, even though it wasn't the first time either. Well, in any case, it was the opener. And I was a bit disappointed that it wasn't presented more elaborately, let's say, with, for example, a nice clip that summarizes all the stakes and everything that has happened over the weeks and months. In reality, I think it's a shame, it still lacks a bit of care. And I also find it a bit regrettable that we don't have a whole decor, let's say a more tribal staging, as I have hoped for a long time. When there was the tribal combat at SummerSlam 2023, I already regretted that there weren't perhaps any palm trees, maybe a special decor, along with the presence of the ancestors of the Anoa'i dynasty. Very unfortunate, but well, that's how it is. What do you want? In any case, this was the opener, and this 3 against 4 match was going to provide plenty of answers to all those questions. And I have to say, right away, that one of the things I notice, unfortunately, once again, when seeing the bloodline with Solo arriving, is that they are trying too hard to create an image. It also lacks real intimidation. I found it unfortunate to see, for example, a Jacob Fatu who makes grand gestures or is too expressive for my taste, as well as a Tamatonga and the Tongs who... Sorry, but for me, they are overdoing it. It's all too exuberant. I would prefer a silent, powerful, dominant bloodline. And I also find that there is clearly a lack of physical presence, I think. And what do I mean by that? For example, Jacob Fatu, he can be powerful and intimidating, but for me, he still seems too small. And be careful, when I say that, it's purely in comparison to Roman Reigns. I tell myself they would have everything to gain, because if you take them alone, without comparing them to anyone in terms of size and physique, it's very good. They can very well be main eventers and important wrestlers in the WWE without any problem. But I think to myself, can you imagine how much more exciting it would be if Jacob Fatu were, for example, 20 or 30 centimeters taller than Roman Reigns? He would be even more intimidating. So, I advocate, we'll see if it eventually happens, for the presence or arrival of a giant. And when I say giant, I mean like a guy in the style of Great Akali, for example, or even a guy who is 2 meters tall, who would, in addition to Jacob Fatu, really be the enforcer of the bloodline. I think they need that, if only to make them even more intimidating. In short, anyway, seeing the bloodline arrive, seeing this story unfold, I was thinking, what memories does this bring back? I was thinking, for example, of Night of Champions 2023, which might be the last. The last episode that was very, very, very significant regarding the bloodline that took place in Arabia made me think, can you realize that for years we have had a story being told around the world? It's true, we had the Bloodline Civil War in England, Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia, and now we have Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. We also had episodes everywhere, in different places. It's pretty good. I was thinking it's really cool to have such a rich story that spans the globe, I want to say. In any case, Roman's entrance was well filmed. I was a fan, and then you also had Jay's entrance. And I thought it was clever to prominently feature Roman Reigns during Jay's entrance. Because clearly, it highlighted just how much this might be the main story in this match. Will Roman Reigns and Jey Uso be able to get along and put the past aside? Will they be able to do it? Real question. And we were also wondering while watching him, does Roman Reigns himself really like Jey Uso at the moment? Sometimes he seemed maybe a little hesitant. In any case, clearly, for me, that was the most interesting thing in this match, since when the match started, we had several instances throughout a part of the match where Jey Uso did not want to tag Roman Reigns when he asked him to, but instead, he would rather tag Jimmy Uso. So, that's very interesting, very interesting. While we saw Solo and his teammates very united, on the contrary, we felt that Jey and Roman were not united. Jey, who did not want to obey Roman, so very consistent with his promo. And I found it also smart from a match construction perspective to build and wait. Before letting Roman enter the match, perhaps feeling a bit frustrated seeing, oh well, it's actually Jimmy who comes in, no tag. So of course, at the moment he entered the match, it was an explosion, I want to say. And when I saw the exchanges between Roman Reigns and
Solo Sikoa,
it really made me want to see that one-on-one match that seems inevitable. And what's great is that we are taking the time to hype it up. They could have done a Roman Reigns versus
Solo Sikoa
match from Bad Blood in reality, but now, having first done tag team matches and probably having the Wargames match at Survivor Series means that this Roman against Solo will have really been patiently followed. And it will therefore have even more value. Very, very good. I appreciate this approach. But what struck me the most is the ending. What happened? Honestly, I have to say I was stunned by what took place. At the end, we had Jacob Fatu, who ended up severely taking down Roman Reigns, who seemed to be gaining the upper hand. But actually, he wasn't. Unfortunately for him, at that moment, the Usos could not come to help him. And what happened? Goodness, after Jacob Fatu put Roman on the spot, well, he still comes out fairly protected, since he did take several finishes in this story. But well, after Jacob took him down, Roman was hit with a double Samoan spike from
Solo Sikoa
and got pinned. He was pinned by Solo Sikoa, who thus won. Oh my goodness, can you believe the event this is? Roman Reigns being pinned. It's only the third time, at least as Tribal Chief or OTC, that we've seen this. The third time, can you believe it? We saw him on July 1st, 2023, at the Bloodline Civil War where Jey Uso pinned him. We had obviously seen him at WrestleMania 40 with Cody Rhodes, and now we see it again with Solo Sikoa, who beats him. Honestly, I have to say that I was shocked. Really, I'm not used to seeing Roman Reigns being defeated. But still, it further reinforces what an event it is, truly, even more prestigious and even more significant for Solo Sikoa in this case. So, it was shocking to see that, and personally, I don't know about you, but I was thinking, it's the right decision. Yes. Why? Because, as you have noticed, I still lament that the bloodline is not stronger, is not more intimidating, and does not instill more fear. And there, Solo Sikoa, who has been claiming to be the chief of the tribe for months, and above Roman Reigns, has put actions to words. It's true, he beat Roman Reigns, no one can take that away from him. So it wasn't one-on-one, that will come later, we imagine. But still, he did beat Roman Reigns, and that's quite an achievement. And a strong victory, a strong statement as well. So, creatively, I think, it immediately restores credibility to the bloodline of Solo Sikoa, since they can say, sorry, we've been pretending for months that we took over and that we are the ones in power in the family. And at Crown, we showed you that in actions, in reality, we are as well. So it's no longer just words, it's also about concrete actions. So, it's shocking to see Roman Reigns defeated, but very good for the aura and legitimacy of Solo Sikoa, and very good for the strength and aura of the bloodline. It's true, it was necessary, and it's also very good from a storytelling perspective to weaken Roman and his allies in view of Wargames, but also in light of Roman's grand quest. I lamented that everything might be happening a bit too easily for Roman Reigns, who is making a comeback, which ultimately ends up completely demolishing and discrediting the bloodline of Solo Sikoa. But no, in fact, thanks to this victory, Roman Reigns, it's not at all as easy as it was until now. And that's good. That's good. It's what was needed. It's what was needed. Anyway, it didn't stop there. I continue. Then we had, already, an image that was very striking, and which, in my opinion, will probably be used a lot in various promotional clips, when Solo Sikoa was standing over a downed Roman Reigns. But at that moment, Roman Reigns was revolting. The Usos came to help him. But well, Jay was about to get beaten up. But at the moment when Roman Reigns was, let's say, in a tight spot, and the Usos weren't doing well either, especially Jay, who was about to be battered with a chair, at that moment, Sami Zayn arrives. So, the big suspense right after is, to whom will Sami Zayn be loyal? Because recently, Sami Zayn had his heart broken. At least recently in relation to Crown Jewel. His heart was broken when he saw Jey Uso tell him that he is not part of the family. And then he had been talking in the parking lot with Solo Sikoa, so we were wondering at that moment, is he going to join the bloodline to torment Roman, Jay, and Jimmy as well? Or on the contrary, will he remain loyal to them despite this broken heart? That was all the suspense. So a real standout moment, with the audience absolutely wanting him to be a face, obviously, at least for him to remain a good guy, Sami Uso, I want to say. And at the moment where he is going to hug Solo Sikoa. But no, at that moment, there is a twist. It is not a hug, but a move he is going to perform on him. And Sami Zayn is therefore not, let's say, turning to the dark side. He will try to defend Roman, Jay, and Jimmy, but shortly after, by accident, he will hit Roman Reigns and the scene, let's say. It all ends with Solo Sikoa, who, to my great regret, was once again a bit too expressive. He was a little too mocking and a little too exuberant. While I prefer him to be silent and intimidating, he was overdoing it a bit. And at the same time, Sami, well, there were tensions between Sami Uso. There was real tension. And it really reignited all the questions we can ask about the bloodline and this whole story moving forward. Because now, what are we wondering when we see this? We say to ourselves, Sami, is there? Of course, he has shown what he is when he stayed on the good side, but will he remain that way until Wargames? Will Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Sami have to collaborate at Wargames? Will they manage to get along despite all this heavy history? Because it's true that I had rather thought that Sami Zayn would be rather with Solo, who I think really needs it, but actually no. And it's true that it's interesting from a storytelling perspective because we wonder what will happen at Wargames. Will Roman get along with Jay? Will Sami get along with Jay? Will Roman and Sami get along? And, of course, Sami and Jimmy, Jay and Jimmy, who faced each other at WrestleMania, them too. In short, I want to say there is on one side a united and powerful bloodline now, and on the other hand, a completely shattered family with tensions everywhere. And they will have to overcome all of that to win, otherwise they will not win. So, it's all quite interesting. I am quite a fan of the direction taken that weekend in early November for what's to come. We can easily imagine there will be war games. So the question is, who will participate in this war games? Because right now, we see 4 participants on each side. But normally, there need to be other members. Who will they be? Very interesting, great suspense. One wonders, of course, will the bloodline of Solo Sikoa remain powerful and dominant, or will the good guys, the heroes, manage to defeat them? A big question, true suspense. What is The Rock's role in all of this? It is known that there is a strong chance that he is actually the final boss, the mastermind above Solo Sikoa. There is a strong chance. In any case, all of this is very exciting and very interesting, I must say. And I am also happy to see that now, thanks to what happened at Crown Jewel, frankly, Solo Sikoa comes out very strong after all. Not everyone has taken down Roman Reigns, especially in his role as the chief of the tribe. And we can only look forward to a match between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, which promises to have even more suspense thanks to Solo's victory. When will it take place? That remains a bit unclear. We'll see. In any case, I'm asking you the question, do you think the right choices were made from a winner's perspective, from a storyline perspective in all these events? Do you believe the right choices were made? Are you hyped and excited for what's next with the Bloodline? Who do you hope to see in each team for Wargames? And what are your expectations for the future? In any case, feel free to share them in the comments. It's always a pleasure to read you. It helps me too, of course. It helps the channel, so don't hesitate. Once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone who does it. And we will see. We will see if all our expectations, all our questions, all our possible frustrations. In any case, at this moment, I already have less because of what happened, but not everything is perfect either. Will all of this improve in the coming months or not? In any case, we will continue to follow our favorite WWE series with great interest in the coming months. And we will see what the WWE has in store for us.
We can say that this topic raises a lot of questions. I hope you had a good time watching this video, and I invite you to stay in the paradise of wrestling to look at some other ones. See you right away.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so. What?